Mrs. Painter. Welcome to my kitchen. Please like, share, and subscribe. Today I'm going to be doing some videos, actually a series of videos, on working with these wonderfully discounted pumpkins that you can get in the store right now. And I'm going to try to get this first video published tonight so that if you want to take advantage of the sales on the pumpkins and learn how to do some of this processing and use it this coming week in your festivities, it'll be available for you to do so. I wanted to add that once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a drawing. And the reason I picked 1,000 subscribers, it's because at that point I'll be able to go live and it'll improve my ability to do videos. And I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for subscribing and watching my videos. Let's get started. So today we are going to learn how to make pumpkin puree using these pumpkins that are on sale right now. So part of my process, last night I took these pumpkins and I scrubbed them really good in soapy water, and then overnight I ozoned them. You have a choice here. I am going to use the skin in my process. If you're not comfortable with your ability to get your skin really clean, then don't do it. But the first part is the preparation. I'm going to take off any unpleasant, ugly looking spots on this because we don't want that in there. But my reason for using the skin is you'll notice if you make pumpkin puree that it's not going to be as orange as a store-bought pumpkin. And I don't want to add any dye, and I'm assuming that when they're doing processes, these big companies just throw these pumpkins in a big machine and it grinds it all up. So I'm just going to take off these little areas that are blemished because I don't want that in my puree. And all these little bits of peel that are coming off, that can go in our compost bin. Pumpkin is a wonderful food. It has a lot of nutrients in it, very high source of vitamin A. You can Google it yourself. I'm not a nutritionist. Super good for dogs. If you ever have a dog that has a stomach issue, you can give them pumpkin and it will help calm down their stomach. Let's try this one first. And when you're cutting a pumpkin, be very careful. These are really hard. Make sure you have a firm grip on your knife. You don't want to cut yourself. Oh, this is going to work really easily. And I grabbed the Cutco knives because these knives are the sturdiest I have in my kitchen. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to save the seeds. So I have a couple different pans here. I'm using my silicone sheets on the pans to help prevent sticking as opposed to, say, a parchment paper or oil. You can see this is a pretty athletic experience. I'm going to save these pumpkin seeds because I want to toast them. You can put a little seasoning on these seeds and they turn out fabulous. So let's actually get a bowl. And I'm going to grab a spoon that's got a sharp edge. It'll make it easier to get the seeds out. All right. I'm just going to take this spoon and scrape like that. What we're going to do is we're going to get our pumpkins prepared, blemishes off, seeds out, stringy parts out, and then we're going to put them on a pan face down, and we're going to bake them at 400 for an hour. Seeds actually come out really well. These little pumpkins are actually easier to work with than the big ones. So I've got about 5 of them. There's all kinds of stuff we can make with pumpkin puree. I would like to make an Amish pumpkin butter, which I think would be fabulous to have with our rolls on Thursday. I'm actually going to make real rolls. We don't eat a whole lot of bread in this household, or I should say real bread. We eat our keto nut and seed bread regularly, but we don't eat a whole lot of bread. The exception is holidays. Anything goes on holidays. You know, scissors would actually work really well for cutting these strings out too. The strings are going in the compost container. So this isn't hard at all. You just get a few tools out that you think will work for what you're doing. And just get going on it. And it might actually be easier to get the blemishes off after the pumpkin is cooked, so I may actually do that instead. Any bad blemishes I'll get off right ahead, but the little ones I'll get off after I've cooked them. I'm going to just take this, put it face down, and actually I'll do it on this one. And it seems to work easiest to get the seeds out. Just go like this with your fingers. It just comes right out. These are nice seeds. These are going to make a great snack. In fact, let's go ahead and turn our oven on. Let's see, bake 400. Let that start preheating. Again, I'm just cutting the strings out. So one of the recipes that I want to make, I may have mentioned it, is the pumpkin butter. And I found a recipe that we're going to try from the Frugal Farm Wife. And I'll be sure, when I do that video, I'll be sure to link to her recipe. Another thing I'd like to make with this puree is I'd like to make our pumpkin pie for this week. And I may use some of the pumpkins to can pumpkin chunks. Another thing you can do is you can dehydrate your pureed pumpkin. One of my favorite YouTube channels is a gal named Heidi on Rain Country, and she has a lot of great videos on dehydrating. Dehydration is a great way to create some long-term storage foods that don't take up a lot of space. It's amazing how much space you save by dehydrating produce, and how many pounds of produce you can get into a quart jar. Outside of this one, it actually looks remarkably good, other than that one spot. And I think we can do one more pumpkin. It's that wonderful time of the year in Nevada where you can open the doors and let some fresh air in. And I tell you, when you're doing these cooking projects, it is wonderful to be able to do that. Now, if you're someplace like where I'm from in Alaska, you enjoy getting the house heated up with your canning and your cooking. Literally, all you have to do to toast your pumpkin seeds is get the orange part off, which is happening pretty easily. Rinse them. You might want to put a little oil in your pan, but you don't have to, just a baking sheet. And you can season them if you want or not, and bake them at 250, and just keep watching them. You'll want to stir them a few times. You don't want to burn them, but let them just get a little brown and toasty, and they make a wonderful snack. All right, get that on our pan. And let's just cut a little more out of this one. Sometimes the spots are just on the surface, other times they actually go into the meat of the pumpkin. As long as you cut all the spot off, it's no different than working with potatoes. It's just fine. All right, this looks pretty good. Let's add this to this pan. And take a little spot off here. All right. Our oven is at 400. We're ready to go ahead and put our pumpkin in there. And let's set our timer for an hour. It's been an hour. Let's pull these out and see how they are. Now it's very hot. Make sure you have some really good hot pads out. In the past, I've had really good success doing this using my Instapot or pressure cooker, but because I'm doing a large batch, I wanted to try this oven method. So let's just see how soft this is. Give it a little flip over here. Oh yeah, we'll be able to get this out just fine. Okay, so before we do that, while I was baking the pumpkins, I was able to get the seeds rinsed. I did a quick spray of olive oil on my silicone sheets, and I coated them with seasoning salt. So we're going to turn our oven down to 250. And we'll just go ahead and put these in. And probably about every 40 minutes, we'll give them a little stir. Make sure they don't burn until they're nice and toasty. But back to our project for today. We are making pumpkin puree. So my blender is glass, and actually you can cook soups and whatnot in this. So I can put something hot in this. If your blender is not that kind of blender, just be careful. You could let this cool off before you work with it. But today I'm going to go ahead and get started. I have some different tools I'm going to use, some tongs, a big metal spoon, and a knife. I think all these things will be useful. I was able to find the video of Heidi's from Rain Country regarding dehydrating squashes, and I am going to add a link to the description of this video, so you'll be able to use that. So I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to grab the squash with the tongs and then just kind of scrape the flesh off. And this will make it easier. Once we get the flesh off, we'll be able to look at the pumpkin skin and remove any blemishes. And I will use scissors for that because that works so well. Especially now that the pumpkin is cooked and it's soft. It'll be very easy just to trim any spots with scissors that we don't want in our food. So you can store your pumpkin puree in the refrigerator for a week. You can also freeze it. If you freeze it, you're going to want to put it in portions that match a recipe. So like if you're going to make pumpkin bread, look and see how much pumpkin you need for your recipe. Freeze that amount and mark how much it is. So for example, pumpkin pie, the recipe I'm going to use for pumpkin pie uses 2 cups. So I will measure 2 cups and I will put that in a bag and label it 2 cups pumpkin puree and the date so we know when it went in. And I don't really make pumpkin bread or pumpkin muffins very much, but if I was going to do that, I would look at my recipe and see how much I needed, and I would do it that way. Look at how well that's coming up out of here. Let's try just adding a 1/2 cup. We want some water to help us, but we don't want to add any more water content than necessary. All right, put the lid on. Turn it on. Let's just try the grind setting. Okay, that sound tells me I need to add a little more water. And while I do that, we'll go ahead and give it a stir. So we have about 5 cups of volume of pumpkin in here, and I'm going to add another 1/2 cup, so that'll bring us up to a cup of water for our process. This also has a custom blend feature. And actually, let's just try that initially as we start to break this up. And I think the grind setting might be a better play. Let's just do that. I'm going to add another half cup of water to our 5 cups of pumpkin puree. So that brings us up to 1.5 cups of water to 5 cups of pumpkin. And let's just give this another stir while we're at it so that some of that water goes down to the base. The only thing with more water when you're using it in recipes, you might cook it down a little bit more. For example, for our next recipe that we're going to do, which will be the Amish pumpkin butter. Okay, that's working really well. Now I want to get my scissors and I want to go ahead and trim some of the skin from the pumpkin and add it in there. This actually has really good color, but if we add a little bit of the skin, we'll have even better color. So let's go ahead and do that. Nobody wants to get burned. All right, this piece looks good. Let's just go ahead and add it. This piece will need more trimming. And anything I trim off that I don't use is going to go in the compost. That in. And I can tell you anything that you do from scratch in the home yourself is going to be of better quality than something you buy at the store, because the big companies don't have the same concern that you and I have, and they don't go to the measures that you and I go to make sure that we're using the best quality produce in our recipes. See if we can blend this in without adding any more water. Let's give this a little stir. Be careful when you do that. I don't know if you noticed it popped up a little bit because it's pretty hot. This actually has a really nice texture. You just want to go ahead and get the skin blended in a little bit better. Getting a really nice orange color from the skin of the pumpkin. It's going to be just like your canned pumpkin, but you just have to have the patience to blend it a little bit and get it combined in nice. Let's do it one more time. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and let's take this out. I'm going to be putting this into a bowl while I'm doing all this processing. If you're going to want to make the Amish pumpkin butter with me, you're going to want to reserve 4 cups of this aside. That'll be for our next recipe. Look how nice and thick this is. This is just like store-bought canned pumpkin, except it's fresh and you did it yourself. There's no preservatives added into this. I hope you enjoyed making pumpkin puree with me. Stay tuned, I'll be having some more videos, and I will be sure to include those links that I told you about earlier. Thanks for watching.